2 years ago, I thought I was fine. I wasn't crying every day. I could get out of bed. I had friends, a job, a smile on my face. But underneath that smile, I was exhausted, numb, hyper-aware, always overthinking, always apologizing, always tense. And one day, someone told me, that sounds like a trauma response. I laughed. Me? Trauma? No way. My childhood wasn't that bad. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized. Every part of how I moved through life was shaped by wounds I never fully faced. If you're reading this, and you've ever felt broken, too sensitive, too distant, or like you're living life on edge, this might be for you. Let me walk you through 7 common trauma responses that I personally experienced and never even knew were trauma until I started healing. 1. Over-explaining everything even when no one asked. 2 years ago, I couldn't send a text without overthinking every word. I'd write a message and then add a paragraph to explain why I sent it. I'd set a boundary and then immediately try to make it sound less harsh. I'd say no to something and spend the next hour writing a whole TED Talk justifying my choice. Why? Because I didn't feel like I was allowed to just exist without explanation. Somewhere along the way, I picked up the belief that I needed permission to take up space, that I had to earn the right to be understood, to be safe, to be accepted. And so I talked, and explained, and softened myself until there was barely anything left. But let me tell you the truth, no one taught us when we were young. Being clear doesn't make you rude. Saying less doesn't make you cold. Not explaining yourself doesn't make you selfish. You don't need to earn safety. You deserve it. You don't need to explain yourself just to be respected. You are already enough, even in silence. Let people misunderstand you. Let them be uncomfortable. That's not your burden to carry anymore. 2. Avoiding conflict didn't mean I was chill. It meant I was scared to death. People used to think I was easygoing. So calm, they said. So agreeable. But the truth? I wasn't calm. I was terrified. Terrified that if I spoke up, I'd push people away. That if I disagreed, even slightly, they'd leave. So I kept my mouth shut, bit my tongue, swallowed the truth over and over. I said, "It's fine," when it hurt. I smiled when I wanted to cry. I nodded when every part of me wanted to scream. This isn't okay. But that silence, it didn't keep the peace. It just buried my pain deeper. Until one day, I couldn't tell the difference between keeping people close and losing myself completely. You're not weak for feeling scared, but you deserve more than a life spent shrinking. 3. I didn't love people. I tried to fix them, because deep down, I thought that was love. I believed that if someone was hurting, it was my job to heal them. If they were broken, I had to stay. If they were toxic, I had to understand, because maybe, if I could fix them, it would prove I was worthy. See? No one ever saved me when I needed it most. So I turned that pain into a mission. Be the rescuer, the listener, the emotional sponge. I became the strong one, the helper, the one who never asks for help. And for a while, that made me feel useful, valuable, needed. But slowly, it drained me. I gave and gave until there was nothing left. No space, no peace, no self. Helping isn't wrong, but sacrificing your entire soul just to feel seen? That's not love. That's survival dressed up in compassion. You're allowed to stop fixing. You're allowed to start healing you. 4. I called it independence, but really it was fear in disguise. For years, I wore hyperindependence like a badge of honor. I don't need anyone. I've got it all handled. It sounded strong, it looked impressive, but it was just a coping mechanism. I had learned the hard way. Every time I relied on someone, they let me down. Every time I opened up, I got hurt. So I stopped depending on people. I stopped asking. I stopped trusting. Instead, I built a fortress around my heart. I told myself it was strength, but it was just survival. And yes, I got things done. I achieved. I handled life alone. But behind that armor, I was exhausted, lonely, craving connection but too afraid to admit it. Here's what I wish someone told me earlier. Needing people doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. You don't have to do everything alone. Let people in. Let love in. You can be strong and supported. 5. People-pleasing until I forgot who I even was. There was a time when I could mold myself into whatever you needed. You wanted someone kind? I was kind. You wanted someone funny? I cracked jokes. You needed help? I'd drop everything for you. I became a shapeshifter, always adjusting, always performing. But somewhere along the way, I stopped asking the most important question. Who am I, really? Not the version you like, not the version that makes everyone comfortable, but the raw, unfiltered me. The truth is, when your self-worth depends on external approval, you start abandoning yourself a little at a time, until one day, you don't recognize the person in the mirror. You're smiling, but it's not real. You're loved, but you feel empty. You're surrounded, but deeply alone. People-pleasing is a slow form of self-erasure. It feels safe, but it costs you your identity. You weren't born to be liked by everyone. You were born to be you fully, unapologetically, and whole. And anyone who truly loves you won't ask you to shrink to fit. 6. Praise made me squirm. Affection made me retreat. I used to think I was just bad at compliments. But the truth, I didn't believe I deserved them. Someone would say something kind. That was amazing. You're really talented. Or just a simple, you matter. And I'd flinch inside, laugh it off, shrug, deflect. Oh, it's not a big deal. You're just being polite. But it wasn't modesty. It was shame. Buried deep under years of feeling invisible, unworthy, or too much. I wanted love, desperately, but I didn't know how to hold it without dropping it. Because when you grow up learning that affection is conditional, you learn to fear it, not trust it. So I rejected the very thing I needed most, not because I didn't want it, but because I couldn't believe it was real. Healing, for me, began the day I stopped questioning kindness and started practicing one quiet, radical sentence. Thank you. I received that. 7. I always needed a backup plan, even for the backup plan. I couldn't trust joy. If something felt too good, I'd start preparing for it to fall apart. Got a job? Don't celebrate yet. Found love? Let's not get too attached. I told myself I was being realistic, but truthfully, I was just scared. Scared that if I let myself enjoy it, the loss would hurt even more. So I braced for impact, always. And in doing so, I robbed myself of the very happiness I craved. That's what trauma does. It trains your nervous system to live in a world that doesn't exist anymore. Always scanning, always protecting, never resting. Every trauma response I just listed, I lived through it. And if any of this sounds like you, I want you to know, you're not crazy, you're not dramatic, you're human, you adapted, you survived things you never should have had to survive. But now you deserve more than survival. You deserve a life where peace doesn't feel foreign, where rest doesn't feel wrong, where love doesn't require you to shrink yourself to fit. So start small. Name the response. Don't judge it. Just notice it. And when you're ready, replace it, bit by bit, day by day. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means refusing to let it control what happens next. Let's grow out of survival and step into self-worth. If this spoke to you, share it. Let someone else know their trauma response doesn't define them.